Today on Locked On Rockies, what's working for the Tigers as the Rockies head into another matchup in which the pitching should be stellar from the opposition. Plus, Purple Road took a look at the Rockies' defense. Maybe hasn't been quite as good as we thought.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 10th day of September in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you all that daily Rockies talk. You can find us on those streaming services, or if you want to help the show grow, if you want to help support, if you want to see the video episodes of the podcasts, head on over to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies when you fire off your comments there on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. And every time you like a video there, really helps the show grow. So we are talking Tigers again today. Also, a good piece on Purple Row highlighting the fact that just maybe the Rockies defense has not been as good as we thought this year. Those are the main focuses, of course. And then we'll take a look at the upcoming schedule and where the Rockies are at when it comes to the road to 61 following the surprising victory over the Brewers. There's series victory over the Brewers. When I looked at this road trip, I certainly did not think that was going to be the series that the Rockies would have a chance at winning. But I digress. Here we are. I want to talk about, again, let's talk about the differences between the Rockies and the Tigers. Let's talk about how important the series is for the Tigers in terms of the playoffs, and we'll dive into that Purple Row piece as well. All coming up on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we dive into everything, just want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, so yet again here, the big theme of this road trip continues for the Rockies as they are facing a Tigers team that, what is their big strength? Pitching. That is now three teams in a row in which the Rockies are playing on the road, in which pitching is the strength for the opposition. And this is a good pitching team here from the Tigers here. Let's just go over the team stats and compare them to the Rockies here in terms of pitching. Team ERA of 3.69, a whip of 1.18. They've walked 376 batters, and they've struck out 1,207. Opponents are batting 236 against them. On the flip side, when you're talking about the Rockies, 5.40 ERA, a whip of 1.50, 490 walks, 981 strikeouts. The differences between the pitching staffs here is pretty substantial. I mean, that's the case for any Rockies matchup at this point in the season when you're facing talent like Detroit has, and like the fact and just talent the teams that the Rockies are playing throughout the end of the season here. There, like we said, there's no break from teams that are fighting or in the playoffs. So you're going to see these types of lopsided matchups. And the stuff that's really big to look at for the Rockies here in this one is the team whip of 1.18 and those strikeouts, 1,207. What have the Rockies been doing a whole lot of lately? Striking out. And, this is going to be that huge factor in this series. Huge factor. If you want to make it so you have a chance in this one, you're the way you won in Milwaukee isn't sustainable. That's most likely not going to be, you're not going to be able to replicate that. Maybe, I mean, it might be a similar type of situation for the Rockies in this series. It's hard to get hits, but then you capitalize on the right opportunities and you get the job done. But this isn't, again, this is going to test all of the young guys in this lineup. This is going to be a situation again where the Rockies have to demonstrate patient at bats. The Rockies have to demonstrate an ability to adjust and work on and figure out ways to get on base, ways to get hits, and ways to do damage here. When you're looking at the Tigers pitching staff here, overall in terms of the league, they're fourth in baseball with an earned run average. They're tied for 16th for quality starts with 51 quality starts. Their whip of 1.18 is the second best in baseball. Their opponent batting average is ninth best in baseball, 236. This is not a Tigers pitching staff that will go lightly. And this is a Tigers staff that has been playing good baseball for a considerable chunk of the month here. I'm just looking at, let's see, in their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 series. It looks like in the last 8 series for the Tigers, there are 6 series wins in the last 8 series for the Tigers, including 2 sweeps of the Mariners and the White Sox. So let's take the Mariners as an example here as we're looking at it. That's a team that struggles on offense. That's a team that strikes out. That's a team that has problems. And Detroit sweeps them. That is the type of competition, and that is the type of wall that the Rockies are going up against. And when the Rockies have been striking out 12, 15, 10, the numbers vary. That will be the difference maker here. How the Rockies can handle and adjust to the Tigers pitching staff. And the good news here, at least in terms for the Rockies here, you are getting towards the end of the rotation. You are getting I don't know. Are we going to see? They are. You are going to see Skubal in this series here in the finale against the Rockies here. So in his last start here against Oakland, he went 5 2/3. He gave up 2 earned, but still struck out 7 and 9 hits. So I mean, he's still looming there in 208 strikeouts, 0.95 whip for him, 16-4 record. Easily one of the best pitchers in baseball, easily a top Cy Young candidate. The Rockies are going to see there in the finale in this series. In the meantime, in the interim here for the Rockies, like tonight's a night in which you have to be aggressive in the right ways. You have to get the job done because Montero here for him, 4-6 win-loss record, 5.47, 1.39 whip over 74 innings, 60 strikeouts over that time. But here's the other kicker for him: 26 walks and 14 home runs. So again, it's not that every Tigers pitcher is going to dominate and keep you at bay. You got to capitalize here in this opportunity. You got to capitalize on the fact that you are hitting that bat before you get to the elite, to the best and the best, till you get to that Cy Young pitcher at the end. You got to go through 4 and 5, and that's a good sign. It's better that the Rockies are going through the back half and only having to deal with one big game against the big starter versus trying to go through 1 through 3 for the Tigers. They still have to perform here. The Montero, like we said here, 60 strikeouts, a whip of 1.39 across the board here. He has been better than Blaylock, but he's also pitched in 44 more innings, so even more than that. So my point is, it's we've seen now for 2 series in a row what could happen to the Rockies. The big flaw, the big issue, the big problem with the Rockies is striking out and going up against power pitchers. That's what Detroit does. So as we're looking at this, as we're sitting here and breaking this down, if this is a series in which the Rockies again win, if this is a series against in which the Rockies, play well, you're going to be confident. But the thing was with the Rockies in the series against the Brewers is, it felt like they stole that series. It felt like they literally, they had a couple of big opportunities, a couple of big base hits, and they got the job done. I'd like to see the Rockies make them a little bit more uncomfortable. I'd like to see the offense get a little bit more in a groove, and I'd like to see double-digit strikeouts not happen in the 2 out of the 3 games. It's going to be tough to do, but again, I'm looking at Montero here in this first one where it's like 60 strikeouts over 74 innings pitched. He's not going to a strikeout per inning like we've seen with some of these arms and some of the pitchers that the Rockies have gone up against on this road trip. I'm seeing that high ERA. I'm seeing the win-loss record of 4-6. I know pitcher wins aren't really much of a stat, but I'm seeing opportunity here. I'm seeing a chance here. And this is the type of stuff when you're playing for the Rockies to win these games, to make it a problem. You got to capitalize when you got these chances. You got to capitalize when the matchups are a little bit better for you. And the matchups between in this game and the second game are a heck of a lot better than the matchup in the first game or in the third game. When you got the Cy Young looming, you got to handle business if you're looking to win this series. You're looking to do some damage here, especially because we know how if you can strike people out and you can go up against the Rockies, you can twirl some strikeout numbers. Let's take a look at where the Tigers are at in terms of the playoff picture here. And let's also take a look at this Purple Row piece highlighting the fact that the Rockies defense, maybe it's a bit overrated. We're going to talk about that coming up here next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, I got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes the good people at Gametime. You know, I love Gametime because it's simple, it's easy, and with all the features they have, they can make it the ticket buying process super-duper simple. Why is that? Well, what they do is they can give you a picture from your seat, so you know exactly where you're sitting. They get you the best last-second deals. They get you the best opportunities for you to save some money while also going to that big event that you wanted to go to. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You can check this here. When you open up the app, toggle that all-in pricing up at the top. You hit that button, you toggle that button, and you're going to see the whole price. No hidden fees, no nothing. This is what you got to pay right here. Tap, 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 boom. You got your tickets and you're at the big game. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, you're in the right spot. That's what we do around here, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Go check us out there. Would love if you could go subscribe to the YouTube channel, hang out with us there, and see my smiling face. If you want to, that is. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB. Our pal Sully breaking down all things baseball here as the playoff hunt is on. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets, Buffs, all covered there. Postcast coming to your way on the Locked On Denver Sports channel. And SiriusXM has got you covered with all your Rockies play-by-play throughout the rest of the season here. All right, so real quick to wrap up our quick conversation here about where the Tigers are at and just kind of the situation here. Again, team playing good baseball, team that's fought them their way back to above 500, a team that is looking for some wild card fun. It's going to be tough, though. It's going to be a situation in which they need to keep playing as good as they are playing because they're in it. The window is open here, especially if Minnesota continues to struggle here. 4-game losing streak for Minnesota now. Detroit, Boston, Seattle, all sitting 3 games back, all sitting with 3 wins here. If you're Detroit, you are licking your lips here. You are licking your chops here. A series win with Minnesota struggles increases your chances because the Tigers are at the top. You have the tiebreaker over the Mariners there. So it looks like if just by them being stacked on top of each other, it looks like the Tigers have the ultimate tiebreaker over the Red Sox and the Mariners. The Red Sox have it over the Mariners, and the Mariners are third. Tampa Bay is there at 5. So technically, I guess the door's still open there, but it's going to be tough, I think, for Tampa and the other remaining teams in the American League to make it there. But if you're Detroit, if you can win this series, I mean, and potentially sweep this series, and Minnesota keeps struggling, I mean, there's a chance that that you work your way into the playoff spot here. I hope the Rockies can get in the way. The Rockies have caused enough thorn in the side of the Brewers, and that's and moments against the Braves where you're sitting there, you're like, all right, maybe they're not fully out of it, but we'll see. I mean, it's. I think if you're the Tigers, you hope that you win this one, and then you feel confident that you got your ace on the bump against a bad team, right? That's how it's looking there. They can't really afford. I mean, every game matters for the Tigers, the Red Sox, and the Mariners. So it's really the Rockies could play an interesting role, because if the Tigers lose this series, Minnesota plays well, or the Tigers lose this series and the Red Sox and the Mariners play well, the Tigers could find themselves slipping back to 5 games, 6 games if the Rockies somehow pull off the sweep out of the playoff race here with just a couple of weeks to go. I mean, it's pretty fascinating how much impact the Rockies can have on so many different playoff races there. It wasn't much in terms of for the wild card for the Brewers, however, considering that they're looking the rest of their division is not even favored to be in the wild card spot. Cubs are 5 games back. The Cardinals 6.5, and the Pirates and Reds both Reds at 9.5, and the Pirates at 11. So a different type of situation there with the Brewers here. But man, I thought there would be more teams fighting a little bit more with the Brewers. The Central divisions, man. Always interesting. Can't say much. The AL Central this year is great. Really, really good. Except for the White Sox, of course. But the NL Central, it's one of those ones where I just wonder what if the Rockies ever got to play those teams consistently. But there you go. That's where we're at in terms of the playoff thing. Hey, over on Purple Row, Renee Deckhart writes about the Rockies defense. How good has the Colorado Rockies defense been in 2024? So here are some standard defensive metrics that we're using here. In terms of Fangraphs defensive runs above average, the Rockies rank 14th with 2.5. Major League Baseball is led by the Kansas City Royals at 35. In short, as a team, the Rockies have been very average defensively. When considering DRS, defensive runs saved, the Rockies tie for 10th with Atlanta at 26. The highest score goes to the Toronto Blue Jays at 91. The Rockies score better. Let's see. See, the problem with some of these, it's like UZR. The Rockies are in 6th, Texas Rangers with 12.2. The Texas Rangers lead baseball at 19.8. The Rockies OAA outs above. I think is that one outs above? No, that one's outs above average. Is marginal 15 with 0. Leading the league are the Kansas City Royals with 36. Finally, when considering FRV, the Rockies scored -4, which is 18th. In first place is the 40 score of the Toronto Blue Jays. So Renee says, what does this all mean? First, this year, no team emerges as a clear defensive leader, but the Rockies have been, as a whole, an okay defensive unit. And she adds, this is probably the result of several factors, most notably giving substantial playing time to younger players who will be prone to making mistakes as they adjust to MLB-level defending. There were also staffing inconsistencies. For example, Nolan Jones saw very little time in the outfield, and it took some time for Michael Tolia to win the first base job. So there's some more context here. And then basically, here's the positional rankings for Rockies position players. Catcher 5.6, 20, and this is based on defensive runs above average, and then that's the rankings based on defensive runs above average here. That's what this listed. 5.6, 22nd at the catcher position. 19.0, 30th at first base. Second base, negative point. Are these negatives? Yeah, negative 0.7, 26. 22nd, I should say. Third base, 9.3. Second. Shortstop, 14.5. Fifth. Left field, 9.5. 19th. Center field, 8.6. Eighth. Right field, 15.2. 27th. This indicates that Doyle, McMahon, and Tovar remain the Rockies' best defenders. It's no surprise. But I see these, some of these numbers, and some of them are a little bit, getting into the weeds there. But the Rockies can't afford to be an average defensive team. When your philosophy is what it is, and Renee points this out in the piece as well, you have to have, I guess maybe I overvalued it. Maybe I wasn't seeing it, but maybe it was so, I was so distracted by the elite defensive talents that the Rockies have that I still believe in, even though, a lot of them are saying the numbers are saying average, around average, below average in some cases. I still believe in the elite talent of the defenders. I still think Ryan McMahon is an elite defensive third baseman, of course, and Tovar, and I believe the same for Brendan Rodgers as well. But I think it goes to show you again where the Rockies, where we look at things as Rockies' strengths, where we look at things as things the Rockies do well. This year, in the grand scheme of things, overall, it's not really the case. The Rockies are playing good defense. Yes, the Rockies, and even those numbers are showing. It's not like the Rockies are horrible on defense. It's not like the Rockies are the best defensive team in baseball, as I've kind of hyped them up to be sometimes in some ways. It's a bit of a reality check that there is so much good talent out there. And this point is really good to point out here as Renee dives into each players here. As difficult as it is to believe, there's a good chance that Ezequiel Tovar won't even be a Gold Glove finalist. And it's not because he's not been elite, but others have been more so. So here's a little bit more. Tovar continues to play with the best of them, and it's his fifth in defensive ranks above average, FRV and OAA, behind Bobby Witt Jr., Francisco Lindor, Dansby Swanson, and Ellie De La Cruz. And he leads all shortstops in UZR, and his DRS ranks him fourth. This is all great. This is all good stuff. But then it's just a reminder of how great the shortstop position is right now. It's just a reminder of how great other teams have, are as well. It still goes to show how much higher of a ceiling, can the Rockies even get higher? Can the Rockies, shoot a little higher and hope a little bit more as Tovar continues to develop? And we know that McMahon is going to have a chance, but even Renee points out in the piece that Ryan McMahon is good chance he's going to be a finalist, but not going to win that Gold Glove this year, as McMahon ranked fourth in overall in defensive runs above average behind Joey Ortiz, Matt Chapman, and Nolan Arenado. And he trails in all other categories. So it's pretty mind-blowing. It's pretty amazing here when you see that stuff and you're just like, man, they're good. They're great. And then you realize that pro baseball players are still so good. When you see the Rockies' best players and when you see these really exciting talents and you see the incredible plays they make, they're still, by the numbers, not making the same amount of great plays as some of these other talent, as some of these other players. And that's just one of those things where you're just kind of like, whoa, you just kind of go, sit back a little bit and you kind of realize, like, the defense is a big strength for the Rockies. And when you realize that it's more, the numbers show it's more average than not, it kind of highlights things. But the context of all that matters. The context of the different lineups, the different people playing, the different amounts of playing time for the people, all that matters. But it is pretty crazy to see that the Rockies, in the positions where the Rockies have some of their best defenders, they're still not at the top of the level, with the exception of Brenton Doyle there as well. He is shown that he has got some elite levels, but his numbers, he's still not number one in any of those other than UZR. That's the only defensive category that Brenton Doyle leads in here. So we'll see. Not a lot of hope here from Renee on any of the Rockies Gold Glove candidates to actually win the Gold Glove, but to have finalists there. So Purple Rose Tuesday Rock Pile. How good has the Colorado Rockies defense been in 2024? That's on Purple Row for you to go read more and check out, to go support there. Quick break, and then we check in on the road to 61. Coming up next here on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. You know FanDuel. FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel's the place where you want to go if you want to maybe go in. Get in on the action on some of this Rockies Tigers. Maybe you're thinking about those strikeouts. Maybe you're thinking the Rockies are going to get after it, get some base knocks, whatever you want to see, whatever you want to take a look at in terms of sports betting. FanDuel's got you covered. They're America's #1 sportsbook, and right now they got something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. Yes, that's right. Every Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and current form of payment. You can cancel anytime, and you can see all the odds, the props, the futures, the bets, all the good stuff waiting for you at FanDuel on the FanDuel app and FanDuel.com. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. The Rockies trying to fight their way out of the basement of the NL, currently tied with the Miami Marlins for the worst record in baseball. The Rockies have the second worst run differential in all of baseball, in case you were curious about that, at -214. The Chicago White Sox at 304. Woof. Rockies, though, only other team with over 200 in that category, -200, I should say. Okay, the road to 61. Let's do our road to 61 check-in here as the Rockies' longest remaining road trip of the season is entering its final game here. So far on this road trip here, the Rockies have gone 500, 3-3. Against Atlanta and Milwaukee. If they can win this series and that, they will go above 500 on this road trip. And that arguably might be the best road trip of the season. If the Rockies win this series, I don't know if there's been a better trip on the road than this one. And 2 series wins against 2 good teams on the road while striking out at the rate that you are. Pretty impressive here. But the big question, the big issue here for the Rockies is, can they score runs here? They have not scored a ton of runs and haven't been shut out since the first game in Atlanta. But the Rockies aren't necessarily blowing the doors off of these teams and these wins that they've had on this road trip. But if the Rockies can pick up 2 more wins, that's going to get them to 56 wins. And then at that point, you'd have to get 5 wins at home against Chicago, Arizona, St. Louis, and the Dodgers. And then, of course, that one last road trip there against the Dodgers there in Dodger Stadium. When you're looking at this, when you're looking at a Chicago team that they're kind of flailing a little bit, I think, and St. Louis they're at a point where it's getting tough for them. It's, as we've gotten to this point, as we've been monitoring and watching this road to 61, I think Chicago and St. Louis have kind of been the ones you look at with a raised eyebrow and be like, what's going to go on with those ones, especially with those series being at Coors Field. I think that it's going to be those might open up the opportunities. If the Rockies are going to avoid, if the Rockies are to avoid 100 losses, or at least avoid, I think, 103 losses last year. Let's see, they need 8 more wins to get to 62. So they need 9 more wins to avoid 100 losses. 9 more wins. If you win this series, that goes to 7. If you win the series against Chicago, that's 4. And if you win the series against St. Louis, that's 6. And then you have 9 games between Arizona and LA to get 1 to, or what is that? No, 2 to avoid that. It's going to be tough. I mean, these series and how the Rockies fare against 2 teams that have just dominated them, that's the difference maker there. But you do feel a little bit better. I mean, and the door continues to creak a little bit further open for this to happen, especially if you're only looking for the 61. If you're a person who went to FanDuel and took the over-under at 60.5 at the beginning of the season, you're really just sitting here looking for those 7 more wins to get you to that 61. 7 more wins in, what is that? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 games for the Rockies. And they need to get 7. It's doable. It's definitely doable. The road trip, the doing as well as you've had on this road trip, wins wise, that's going to be the difference maker on the road to 61. I think that this road trip here and this game one here set the tone, get you another series win, get you back-to-back wins. Something the Rockies don't often do. Get you rolling into a good spot here. But like I said, it's going to be tough sledding against the Tigers. But like we also mentioned, though, back half of the rotation, you have an opportunity here. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for joining us and making us your first listen of the day. Really appreciate that. Make sure you are following us on your favorite not social media. Well, you can follow us on Twitter, and you can also find us on your favorite streaming services and the Locked On Rockies YouTube page, where when you like the videos, when you tune in there, when you subscribe, really, really helps the show grow. Check out Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services as well. We'll be breaking down the Tiger series, reacting to all the game action on tomorrow's episode, so don't miss out. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.